As quoted by the London Times Monday, January 1st, the INSS experts, headed by General retired Giora Elan, a former head of Israel's National Security Council, deduced from a simulation study they staged last week that their conclusion was that neither the U.S. nor Israel will use force to stop Iran's first nuclear test, which they predicted would take place in January of 2013. But Debka-Files' Iranian sources stress, however, that Tehran does not intend to wait for the next swearing in of a U.S. president in January of 2013. Whether Barack Obama is to return for a second term or replaced by a Republican figure before moving on to a nuclear test. Iran's Islamist rulers have come to the conclusion from the Bush and Obama presidencies that America is a paper tiger and sure to shrink from attacking their nuclear program, especially while the West is sunk in profound economic distress. Debka-Files sources stress that both Tehran and the INSS are wrong. The Tel Aviv scenario is the work of a faction of retired Israeli security and intelligence bigwigs who are anxious to pull the Netanyahu government back from direct action against the Islamic Republic, have been lobbying for the proposition that Israel can live with a nuclear-armed Iran. But Debka-Files' Washington sources confirm, however, that President Obama considers the risk of permitting a nuclear-armed Iran to be greater than the risk of military action. On Monday, January 9, the top administration officials said that developing a nuclear weapon would cross a red line and precipitate a U.S. strike. U.S. Defense Secretary Leon Panetta said if Iran takes the step to develop a nuclear weapon or block the Strait of Hormuz, they're going to be stopped. The INSS have also wrongly assessed Russia's response to an Iranian nuclear test as to seek an alliance with the U.S. to prevent nuclear proliferation in the region. This fails to take into account that Prime Minister Vladimir Putin, running himself for a third term as president in March, has already committed Moscow to a new Middle East policy which hinges on support for a nuclear Iran and any other Middle East nation seeking a nuclear program. This is part of Russia's determined plan to trump America's Arab Spring card. In other news, Stratfor report is asking the question, what does 2012 hold for the European Union? According to a recent Stratfor report, right now, the Europeans are scared, which makes them willing to do things they would not normally do, such as implementing austerity and ratifying treaties they dislike. Agreeing to sacrifice sovereignty in principle to maintain the European economic system in practice will seem a reasonable trade. The real political crisis will not come until the sacrifice of sovereignty moves from the realm of theory to application, but that will not occur in 2012. In many ways, the political pliability of European governments now is all about staving off unbearable economic catastrophe for another day. This is a fascinating assessment by Stratfor because it is exactly what the Bible says will happen during the tribulation period. Speaking about the future rise of the Antichrist, Revelation 17:12 and 13 says, "And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast," which is the Antichrist. At this time, the European Union is a group of nations who have individual agendas, one being to save their own economic necks. However, the time is coming when they will have no other choice but to sacrifice sovereignty in order to maintain the European economic system. I believe the Bible is clear. This giving up of sovereignty will give rise to a single leader, the Antichrist, who will be given full power and authority in an attempt to lead the European Union out of their economic crisis. Frankly, the giving up of sovereignty by individual EU nations as a starting point for solving this crisis isn't new. Many financial experts around the world believe this is the only way the European Union will be able to survive. I fully expect this to be one of the main reasons, if not the reason, why the Antichrist does come to power. In other news, two assailants on a motorcycle attached a magnetic bomb to the car of an Iranian university professor working at a key nuclear facility, killing him and wounding two people on Wednesday, a semi-official news agency reported. The attack in Tehran bore a strong resemblance to early killings of scientists working on the Iranian nuclear program. It is certain to reinforce authorities' claims of widening clandestine operations by Western powers and allies to try to cripple nuclear advancements. Of course, Iran accused Israel of being behind this particular bombing. This is Terry Malone with the Calvary Prophecy Report.